Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us. Happy Friday. Hope the Bills win on Sunday. I'm wearing my Bills shirt. My name is Katie Earle. I'm the coordinator of the University Express program, and I work for the Erie County Department of Senior Services. We're joined here virtually today with Jenny LeGrand from Wegmans, and we appreciate her time. Before we jump into her presentation, as always, we'll do some housekeeping things for the new folks who are here with us. First thing you just heard is we are recording this session, and I'll try to post it on our website at a later date. Second thing is, you may think you're the only person here with us today, but I promise you there are other people. We're just in anonymous participation mode, so only Jenny and I can see the full list of folks who are in here. And we'll be communicating with you through our Q&A panel. So if you have any questions or comments, type those in when you think of them, and we'll address those when we have a chance. And then we'll get through as many as time allows. So if you are on a computer, chances are your Q&A panel popped right up on the right-hand side of your screen when you joined. You may just have to expand it, and then you'll see the text box. Send your questions to me, please, and don't forget to click send, or else they'll just be hanging out in there. If you don't see that panel, if you look at the lower right-hand side of your screen, you should see a half circle with a square and a question mark. You can click on that. Or if you're on a smartphone or tablet, poker touch your screen, your control panel will pop up. You'll see a circle with 3 dots. And that's how you access it. So we hope you participate with us today. And again, we're excited to have you. So we want to thank our sponsors of our University Express program, which is my Department of Senior Services, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York, Excelsior Orthopedics, and Wegmans, because they help make this program possible, and we appreciate them very much. And as always, please do not hesitate to contact us at Senior Services. We're at 858-8526. We'll do whatever we can to get you connected with benefits, services, or programs and help your loved ones out as well. So take advantage of our services, please. Now, without further ado, I'll introduce Jenny. Jenny is a graduate of DeUville College here in Buffalo. She has been excited to share her nutritional knowledge with the employees and customers at Wegmans stores throughout Buffalo and Erie, PA for the past 2.5 years. She enjoys learning about new products and sharing how people can incorporate those foods to help them live healthier, better lives, and we're excited to have you. Jenny, I'll turn it over.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Katie, for that great introduction. Virtual hello to everybody out there. This morning, I am going to be talking a little bit about our healthy eating basics philosophy here at Wegmans and share some tips for healthy eating once we hit the ages of 50 plus. So like Katie said, if you have any questions, please feel free to type those in. I'll go through the slides this morning, and I would be happy to share any pieces of information that anybody needs. I can work with Katie to make sure that any handouts or something that we'll get those out to anybody who would like those. So we'll go ahead and get started. And just think to yourself, when I say healthy eating, I think everybody in this group probably has a different idea about what that means. And truth be told, if you search the internet for the words healthy eating, you're going to get about 77 million different results. So there's a whole lot of confusion out there, and some good information and some misinformation about what healthy eating really is. At Wegmans, we have a mission to help people live healthier, better lives through food, and we think that we can make it simple for everybody, demystify some misinformation out there, and share how bringing balance, variety, and moderation into your overall healthy pattern of eating can help you live your best life. So today what we'll do is go ahead and talk about what is a healthy pattern of eating, tips for practicing balance and moderation. And like I said, we'll talk about some dietary considerations for those 50 plus, and I'll highlight some of the helpful resources that we have here at Wegmans. So first up, we're talking a little bit about the nutrition puzzle. So nutrition is a branch of science that looks at different substances called nutrients that play a role in our health. There are 6 key categories of nutrients that are needed for overall health and day-to-day bodily functions. And those are carbohydrates, fat, protein, vitamins, minerals, and water. And you can see those on the screen there. And in addition, we have other substances in plants that we may need for optimal health, and we call those plant compounds. Like you can see in our tomato, there's some question marks. There's some things that we know that our whole foods, specifically like our fruits and vegetables, offer to us. And the exciting thing about nutrition is that it's an ever-evolving science. So we're continuing to learn more about those items that are in our fruits and vegetables that may play an important role in our health. And like I said, it's a puzzle. So it's all of those pieces, how they work together, and play a important role. You can't have an overall healthy pattern of eating without having all those pieces of the puzzle. So we'll go through each of those pieces a little bit this morning. And again, think to yourself, have you ever heard that carbohydrates are bad for you? And if you've paid any attention to popular media or anything going on right now, there are a lot of diet claims out there that state that carbohydrates are very bad for your health, that you shouldn't have carbohydrates, all of the stuff that you can possibly hear out there about our poor friend, the carbohydrate. But carbohydrates are so incredibly important to our health. They are our body's main source of energy, and they're really the preferred source of energy for our brain function. So our brain thrives on glucose, and all of the wonderful things that we get from our carbohydrates. So carbohydrates play a really important role, but what's important to think about is the different kinds of carbohydrates. So not all carbohydrates are created equal. There are different kinds out there. Those include sugars, which can be naturally occurring in foods. Think about your fruits, your dairy products, whole grains, all have naturally occurring sugars in them. Where we always want to be mindful is of our added sugars in our diet. So items that have additional sugar added to them. So think about your sodas, some juices, fruit flavored yogurts. Some things can have natural sugar in it, but also added sugar. And we always want to be mindful of limiting the amount of added sugar in our diet. The next kind of carbohydrate is starches, and those work kind of differently in our body and play some important roles in bodily function. And my hero of the carbohydrate world has to be dietary fiber. We could all strive to get a little bit more fiber in our diet. Goals are about 25 to 36 grams of fiber a day. And most of us, myself included, do not get to that point. And we know fiber is so important for not only our gut health and keeping things moving, but we also know that fiber is playing an important role in perhaps reducing our risks of some diseases like heart disease and some cancers. So having carbohydrates is really important. It's just important to think about the kinds of carbohydrates that you're having. Next up is fat. So fat is kind of the popular nutrient going on right now. There's lots of diets that talk about eating high fat diets, but not too long ago, we were very much that low fat diet kind of culture. And we really talked about going super low fat, no fat. But just like carbohydrates, fat plays an incredibly important role in our body. And you can see here that it promotes healthy eyes, skin, our hearts, brain, our immune system. Basically anything that happens in your body, fat is required to do that. And it's also crucial for nutrient absorption. So a lot of people may not know that there are certain vitamins and minerals that our body needs fat in order to absorb. And one of those is vitamin D. We'll talk a little bit more about vitamin D later. But we all know, living up in Western New York, that we are about to enter the gloomy season, and our vitamin D intake becomes really much more important, and a lot of people end up supplementing. But vitamin D is one of those fat soluble vitamins, meaning that we have to have fat in our diet in order to absorb that vitamin D. So it's an important nutrient for us to have. But just like carbohydrates, there are some preferred fats and some less preferred fats in our diets. So saturated fats are fats that we want to reduce and limit in our diet. You can think about saturated fats as fats that are solid at room temperature. So think about that stick of butter or the beautiful marbling on a piece of meat. That's solid at room temperature. And those are the fats that we want to reduce because we know that there's a link between saturated fats and some diseases, such as heart disease. So limiting that is really important to strive for. But of course, we can have some saturated fat in our diet, not a problem. The one that we really want to eliminate as much as possible is trans fats. And those are the ones that are found in a lot of our processed foods, like those Twinkies that live on the shelf for decades. They seem to have a never-ending shelf life. That's in no small part to trans fats. So in my mind, not that I don't love a Twinkie every now and then, but those trans fats, if they can make it last that long, it's probably not something we want to be putting in our body. What's really great is that we've really strived to manufacture less products with trans fats. In fact, companies are no longer really allowed to add to process foods and have trans fats. So we're getting to a good spot where it's easier to avoid trans fats in our diets. But the hero of fats, it's not all bad when it comes to the world of fats, like I said, is our unsaturated fats. So these are our liquid oils. Sometimes they're called polyunsaturated fats, or you might have heard of monounsaturated fats. These are healthier fats that we know can play an important role in preventing disease. So where our saturated fats may increase it, unsaturated fats may help us decrease some of our risks. And those are, like I said, your liquid oils, so not solid at room temperature. So think about olive oil, canola oil. There's some healthy fats in nuts. You can see some walnuts on the screen, and avocados. Of course, fat is still an additor of calories, so we want to be mindful of how much fat we're having in our diet because calories do count, but know that fat is really important. Next up is protein, and I don't think anybody has a negative thought about protein. Most people are pretty good on board with protein is important for us, and it definitely is. It helps build cells, muscles, bones, organs, immune system. Again, if something's happening in our body, proteins probably play a role. And we know there's so many different kinds of protein sources. There's animal sources out there. There's also a lot of great plant sources of our protein as well. And what's great about protein is it not only does it do all of those great things in our body, but it helps promote satiety. So when we have a meal that includes protein, it slows the emptying of our stomachs, which helps keep us fuller longer. I always like to tell people when they have snacks specifically to include protein in your snack. That apple that you have is a great snack to have during the day, but it probably doesn't keep you full very long. Adding some protein to that apple, like a slice of cheese, a cheese stick, eggs, yogurt, nuts, whatever your protein of choice is, will help make that snack last a lot longer. So if you're looking to have something that's going to fuel you and keep you going longer, add protein in. Next up are our vitamins and minerals. So those are substances that our body needs to function properly. They support growth, provide bone structure, tissue structure. We also know that vitamins and minerals play an important role in our immune health as well. And everybody definitely has immune health at top of mind. So eating a variety of foods that provide a variety of vitamins and minerals will really help us boost our immune system. Next up is water, and our body is made up of about 60% body weight of 60% of our body weight is water, excuse me. And we know that water is really important to help carry nutrients and oxygen to our cells. It also helps to fight fatigue. We're going to talk about hydration and being well hydrated later on, but it's really important. And I always set this reminder, and I encourage you, if you're sitting somewhere right now where you have some water next to you, I do here, everybody stop for a second and take a sip. Thank you, Katie. Yes, staying hydrated is so important, and we sometimes don't notice until it's a little bit too late that we haven't been drinking our water. So setting reminders to ourselves to drink throughout the day is really important. Oftentimes too, sometimes you get that afternoon slump and we turn to the candy bar, or for me, it's that third, fourth, fifth cup of coffee of the day. But sometimes we might just be a little bit dehydrated, and that can help us, that makes us sometimes feel fatigue. So if you're feeling that afternoon slump, have a glass of water, see if that doesn't help. Of course, if you're hungry or you need some nutrition, go for that too. But have that sip of water first and see if you might just have been feeling a little bit thirsty. And then last up on the screen are our plant compounds. So remember that tomato that I showed you on the slide with the puzzle pieces. There are different plant compounds that we are still learning about. One of those is lycopene in tomatoes. We know that lycopene in that plant provides helps with that bright red color and that nice smooth skin that's like got nice and tough. I don't know. I'm like touching a tomato in my mind. So hopefully you're visualizing that too. So we know that's what it does in the tomato. We know we're learning more about what it does in us. And one of the promising things that we're finding about lycopene is that it may have disease preventative functions to it, such as helping to prevent the risk of colon cancer. So that's exciting. But of course, we don't eat nutrients. We don't go to a restaurant and say, I would like, 6 ounces of protein, although we might say that, with a side of lycopene and some vitamin D to go with it. We eat food. And you might think to yourself, I buy vitamins and minerals at the store, and those are individual nutrients. And that's true. Supplements come to mind when we think about nutrients, but that's not how we eat our food. It's what's on our plates. So while supplements might be appropriate for filling a specific nutrient gap, they can't alone replace the power of whole food. We know that consuming supplements and of individual food items is really important. So this comes to mind with like fish oil supplements. A lot of people don't like fish, but we know that there's some important benefits to those omegas that we come from fish. So you can definitely take a supplement for that, but we also know that eating the whole fish itself provides a variety of different nutrients that play roles with each other in our body. Remember, we said it's a puzzle. It all has to work together. So when we can choose to eat whole foods whenever possible and only supplement when we really have that gap, or if there's a need for us to get it from a supplement because we can't eat the food, choosing that food choice is really important because it is so important for all of those components to work together. So that's great. We've talked about all of these things, but what we're here to learn about is what's a healthy pattern of eating that we can kind of all follow to help reduce our risks of disease and promote health. So what I've got on the screen here, and it is difficult to read if you have something smaller, but this is a handout that I can share with Katie later, and she can share out to the group if anybody would like. This is what we call our healthy eating guidelines. And what they are a suggestion of guidelines. So a pattern of eating that you could follow that we know has links to improving health and reducing risks of disease. And it really highlights the food groups and areas that we know are really important and linked to health. So increasing fruits and veggies, dairy, whole grains. Nuts and seeds are really important. They provide a lot of plant fiber. Nuts and seeds are great because they have fiber, carbohydrates, and fat. They got everything all in one little cute little container. We talked about hydration, so water is really important. Seafood, so the goal is really to have 2 servings of seafood a week to get that heart healthy benefit that seafood offers. Also, the variety of seafood's really great. There's a lot of immune boosting nutrients in seafood, so it's a great food item to have. Beans and legumes are a great source of fiber and plant protein. They're also relatively inexpensive when you compare it to some of our meat products. So incorporating beans and legumes into the diet in maybe place of or in addition to some meat products can help you stretch your budget, can help stretch the dish, and also increase the fiber in what you're eating. The guidelines do recommend limiting red meats and processed meats, but please note it does not say no red meats or processed meats. So we know that in Buffalo specifically, we love our Salem hot dogs, and a Salem hot dog every now and then isn't going to be the worst thing. It's just choosing to have that less and choosing some of these other foods more. Incorporating eggs and poultry, and then, like I said, incorporating liquid oil in. So these are the basic overall guidelines. And please note that there is nowhere on here where we say do not eat ice cream and cake and chicken wings and your favorite pizza. It's not about excluding anything. It's about thinking about all the things that you can include in your diet. Something I like to share with folks when they're looking at this and they're like, oh, it doesn't necessarily match the pattern of eating that I follow and I want to make some changes. What I recommend is picking one of those areas that you want to make some changes in and really working to get to that goal. So let's say seafood is really important to you and you want to start incorporating more seafood. Work towards that goal of having 2 or more servings per week. And once you've done that and that becomes a habit for you, then move on to something else. I would never recommend to anybody to look at this and do a complete diet overhaul and change everything that you're doing because nobody's going to stick to that. You got to make small changes and have those changes become habits. And over time, you'll hopefully get to a pattern of eating that you're happy with that really helps you feel your best. So following this plant-forward pattern of eating, this is based on the healthy eating guidelines that the USDA puts out every 5 years. And it is also based on the Mediterranean diet. So if you do any look when it comes to heart health and diabetes, There's most of like the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association will recommend a Mediterranean style of eating because we know of the benefits that that style of eating has. It's very plant forward, focusing on our fruits and veggies and whole grains. And we know that that's linked to heart health, digestive health because of all that great fiber, reducing risk of type 2 diabetes, bone health. It's great for that. It may help reduce the risk of some cancers. And it's also can play a role in weight management. So following this pattern of eating won't necessarily cause you to lose weight. However, if you're fueling your body in a way that provides you really great energy and helps you feel good, you're probably more likely to be a little bit more active. You're going to have that energy at the end of the day if you fueled your body right to get out there and go for a walk. If anybody's here in the Western New York area, it's going to be 77 today. So let's get out there, go for a walk. Let's fuel that walk and get out there and get moving. And of course, the more we get moving and the more of a healthy pattern of eating we're following, that may lead to some weight loss or at least weight management. And we continue to learn more. Like I said, nutrition is an ever evolving science. So we continue to learn more about how the foods that we eat really play a role in optimizing our health. So I've said it a couple of times, those healthy eating guidelines are, like it says in the title, just guidelines. So absolutely they can be modified. So let's say you have an allergy to shellfish or there's certain things that are part of that dietary pattern that aren't appropriate for you because of allergies or because of other illnesses or something that you may be experiencing. Absolutely modify it to fit your needs. It doesn't need to be followed exactly. So, it recommended 5 cups of fruits and vegetables a day. If one day you eat 2 cups, the next day you eat 7 cups, that's fine. It's all about an overall pattern. It's not about following everything exactly in one day. And it's also not restrictive. So like I said, there's nothing here that's going to say, and I will never tell you to not have ice cream because trust me, I have ice cream every single night and it can be a part of your healthy pattern of eating. So we never want to think about the things that we can't have in our diet. We always want to think about all the great things that we can have. And when you go towards a pattern of eating that really thinks about all the wonderful things that you can have, it makes eating fun. So make it your own. An easy way that we like to talk about how to have balance and moderation is our half plate healthy recommendation. So if you're familiar at all with the USDA's My Plate, it's a recommendation on food, the food ingredients that we have and how we can kind of build our plate. If you look at the My Plate, it's a half plate healthy. So it talks about filling half of your plate first with fruits and vegetables, and then filling the other half of your plate with whatever else you want. And what this does is it helps us build our plate around our fiber-rich plant foods, our fruits and vegetables that we know are going to provide us a lot of vitamins and minerals and nutrients, and typically are lower calorie, but still allow place on our plates for all the other foods that we want to enjoy. So I always remind people that when we talk about half plate healthy, I don't talk about putting a little bit of salad on your plate and then filling the other half of your plate with like 6 slices of pizza and really stacking up that. I'm talking about building a balanced plate, but this works great for second helping. So let's say you, instead of the spaghetti and meatballs, you have a salad and a slice of pizza from your favorite local pizzeria tonight for dinner, and you're done with it and you're like, oh, that wasn't enough. Build your second plate with half plate healthy yet again. So fill it again with some fruits and vegetables, that salad, then fill it up with the pizza as well, and keep on going. This is going to help you keep your portions in check and your calories in check. And calories count. So we really want to be mindful of that. But this is a super simple way of thinking about it. There's no measuring. You could be at an outing, and I know that in this COVID world that we're living in, our holidays are going to be looking a little bit different. But when you're together with family and friends, however that may look, you can build that plate without having to be super mindful of what you're doing and without others having to know that you're choosing to eat that way. It's super easy to build your plate and be confident in the choices that you're making. And maybe too, somebody will look at your plate and say, hey, that looks pretty good. Maybe I'll follow suit. And nobody will be the wiser that they're eating half plate healthy as well. This does work really great though for our holidays. It's a nice way if you have a holiday buffet to start building your plate. Think trying to pick out those fruits and veggies. I will say that Christmas time is probably the one time of the year where I say green bean casserole counts, because that might be the closest thing to a bean you have on the table. But getting those green beans, it's also a great way to think about your holiday desserts. So cookies and pies and all of those wonderful things are there, but maybe getting some fruit and filling half of your plate with some fruit or fruit salad, and then the other half of the plate with those cookies and pies and whatever else you might be choosing to have. So it's a great way to eat all year long, and it comes in especially healthy during the holiday season. So hopefully you have seen that you can have a healthier, better life through food by choosing balance, by eating half plate healthy, by having variety. So following a pattern of eating that gives you a variety of foods, a variety of fruits and vegetables throughout the week. And like I said, some days you're going to have a lot of fruits and vegetables. Some days you're going to have a lot less. It's about that overall pattern. And in moderation. So remembering comparing calories, watching our portions, and everything in moderation is a good thing. So next up, I wanted to talk a little bit about healthy eating for those 50 plus. And the reason that we spend so much time, and you'll notice we're going to spend a little bit less time on healthy eating for those 50 plus, is because, surprise, it's the exact same pattern of eating. Really, we know that as we age, following that same pattern of eating is as important as it ever was. So you still need those carbohydrates, fruits, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals. What may change is that you may need slightly different variations of those nutrients as we age. So we may need fewer calories than we would when we were younger to help maintain healthy weight. I'm going to take a sip here because you can tell I'm choking on my words here. Water check for anybody who wants to do a water check right now. So like I said, you may need fewer calories as you age, and that's especially true if you become a little bit less active as you age. So keeping that in mind, it's important to think about being really mindful of that pattern of eating, really focusing on that half plate healthy to keep our calories in check. While we may need less calories, we may need more of certain nutrients. So when you think about the fact that you might need fewer calories overall, but really focusing on getting in some vitamins and minerals and focusing on our nutrients is important, it really reminds us that it's important to think about eating nutrient-rich foods first. So as we need less calories to meet our body's needs, it means that there's less room in our diet for those, quote, empty calories. So thinking about the pop that adds, they add unnecessary calories without any nutrients to our diet, ice cream and cake and all those good things that I told you you could still have them, and I'm telling you, you can, but it's important to be mindful about fueling our body with those foods that we know promote good health, because we may need a whole lot less calories. You may find yourself getting fuller earlier. So when we can focus on getting those nutrient-rich foods in first, we know that we're going to be meeting our needs, before we start filling up on things that aren't going to help us live that healthier, better life. So like I said, that overall pattern of eating stays the same, but there are a couple of nutrients that we really want to stay a little bit extra mindful of as we age, just because of how our body starts to function. So some nutrients of importance as we age. First one I'm going to talk about quickly is calcium. So we know that calcium plays a really important role in our bone health. And as we age, it's even more important that we think about having strong bones. So incorporating in non-fat or low-fat dairy is really important to keep consistent calcium coming into our bodies. And of course, we know that even consuming a glass of milk at every single meal might not meet the nutrient needs that you have for calcium. So always talking to your doctor about what your calcium levels are and if you may need to supplement. And I'll say that for all three nutrients that we have on the screen and nutrients in general. And I apologize if you heard the overhead there for a moment. But supplementation, it's important not to just go out and buy supplements and start taking them without knowing if your body actually needs them. So I will always recommend before you take any supplement that you talk to your healthcare team and really find out what your personal unique needs are. because supplements can be really a great thing, but if you don't need them, and let's say your body's not going to absorb them, then why pay for a nutrient your body's not going to use? Also, there are vitamins. We talked about vitamin D. That's a fat soluble vitamin. Our body will store excess vitamin D, and having too much isn't a good thing, especially with vitamin D. It can be very toxic to our bodies. So we don't want to blindly take supplements. We really want to talk to our healthcare team, find out where we're at, and supplement from there, but focus on those whole foods first. So calcium, we're thinking about our dairy products. Vitamin D, there's two ways our body is able to get vitamin D. So we can consume it. Vitamin D is fortified in a lot of our foods, including dairy and juice products. There are some food sources of it, but that's usually like sardines and things that have bones in it. So if you love those, great, go for it. I'm personally not eating sardines. So I get most of my dietary vitamin D from things that are supplemented, like dairy and juices. But our body also makes vitamin D. So in our skin, our body has the ability with the sun rays to convert some cholesterol in our body to vitamin D, and it's a whole long process. But as we age, our skin loses its ability to do that process as efficiently. So even if you were living in Florida, if some of you guys are snowbirds, say hi to my parents down there. They get to stay nice and warm as well. But if you're down in Florida, you might be getting a lot of that sunlight, and that's great. But your skin's going to create a little bit less of that vitamin D than it used to when you were younger. But also, again, if you're staying up here with me in the winter, we're getting a whole lot less sun. So even, as efficient as your skin may be, if you're not getting the sunlight, it's not there. So thinking about choosing food sources of vitamin D is really important. And that's one that usually doctors would recommend the supplement for, just because of where we live. Yay, the joys of Western New York. Last up is vitamin B12. So vitamin B12 comes from plants, or not from plants. There's no plant sources of vitamin B12. Caught me there. It comes from our animal sources. So animal products are sources of vitamin B12, and vitamin B12 is really important for synthesis of DNA and red blood cell production, as well as a whole host of other bodily functions. How our body processes vitamin B12 is through a process in our gut that really relies on the acidity of our stomach. So our stomach acid is important in helping us convert the vitamin B12 so our body can absorb it. But as we age, unfortunately, our body produces less acid in our stomachs. So, we're less likely to increase or to have vitamin B12 absorbed in our body. And also, if we take certain medications like metformin or antacids to prevent heartburn or GERD or whatever reason you may be taking an antacid, that of course is going to reduce the stomach acid, which is good. That's what it's supposed to do. But that does affect our body's ability to absorb B12. So that's another one to just be mindful of eating plant or animal foods. But if you choose a plant-focused diet and you're consuming less meats, talking to your doctor about your vitamin B12 status and finding out, how if you need to supplement for that. And of course, there's other nutrients out there that are really important to think about. I mentioned fiber. Fiber is super important for us. So being mindful of how much fiber we have in our diet. If you're considering increasing your fiber, like I said, our goal is 25 to 36 grams a day. If you're going to think about eating more fiber, so plants and vegetables or a fiber supplement, please do so while increasing your water intake, and do it slowly, because if you increase your fiber too quickly and don't have enough hydration, it's going to lead to some GI issues, some stomach issues that you just don't want to have. So do that slowly, but fiber is important. Potassium is another one. We know that potassium can help play a role in reducing risks of high blood pressure. So potassium-rich foods, everybody thinks of bananas, but potatoes are actually the hero of the potassium world. So have yourself a potato with the skin on it. The potato itself is not bad. It's what you put on the potato that we might want to be mindful of when those calories come in. But have a potato once a week. Get some extra potassium in your diet. And then, like I said, hydration. So most of us don't hydrate well enough throughout the day. We get busy. We're busy doing a whole bunch of other things. And it isn't until we feel thirsty that a lot of us are taking a drink of water. But unfortunately, as we age, our ability to be attuned to our thirst level decreases, which means that we don't notice that we're thirsty until sometimes it's a far later. So being incredibly mindful of staying hydrated as we age becomes even more important. So always having something to drink at your mealtime and sipping throughout the day, even if you don't think you're thirsty, have a sip of water, just to kind of stay nicely hydrated. And I do recommend choosing non-sugar added sources of hydration. So of course, water is great, sparkling water, unsweet tea, black coffee. Tea and coffee are hydrating, so definitely choose those, and limiting the amount of sugar sweetened beverages because, like I said, those calories count. And if we can make a little swap here and there, one less pop for a glass of water or a sparkling water, that can help us save our calories over time. So what I wanted to just quickly highlight before we go into some questions and answers is the resources that we have available at Wegmans. So if you are familiar with our website, Wegmans.com, there are a lot of really great resources there. And I'm really proud that our nutrition team is working hard to incorporate even more information on Wegmans.com so that you can absorb that information whenever it's convenient for you. We have a tab called Health and Nutrition that talks about different styles of eating based on perhaps some medical needs or concerns. Different ways to eat well and live well, talking about focusing on staying active, quitting smoking, and some tips to do that. There's also a page that we have called Feel Our Best, which is what our nutrition team works to put information on. So we talk about things like food safety, immune support, plant-based eating, all of that stuff. So check out Wegmans.com. Click around, see what you can find, type in Feel Your Best into the what can we help you find? It'll take you to that page. There's videos, lots of really great information, and you can also access that from our app. So if you have the Wegmans app, you can access all of that information from there as well. And of course, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I would be happy to respond to anybody's questions that they have. My email address is on the screen there. It's my name, so jennifer.legrand@wegmans.com. Send me an email and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And that is my presentation. So Katie, what questions did we have?
First of all, thank you, Jenny. That was wonderful. So much information. You're great.
Thank you.
So I'm seeing a couple questions here. And folks, if you joined late, if you want to put your questions or comments in the Q&A panel, we'll be happy to answer them. So the first question I'm seeing is, what are your thoughts on almond butter versus peanut butter?
I would say it is whatever your personal preference is. So a lot of people choose almond butter because they have a peanut allergy. So choosing that swap there, but ultimately it's whatever tastes better to you. Almond butter tends to be a little bit more expensive, but it's truthfully your taste. They both provide the same nutrients, just maybe in a slightly different amount, but can't go wrong either way.
Okay, thank you. The next one I'm seeing is, are raw vegetables better than cooked vegetables for you?
So depending on how you cook a vegetable, it may reduce some of the nutrients that are in it. So like if we boil something for a long period of time, a lot of those, sometimes those nutrients can seep out. But I will tell you that no matter how you choose to eat your vegetables, it is a good way to choose it. Eating raw is great. All of those nutrients are there naturally. If you're choosing to cook it, choosing some quick cook methods or roasting it, something that's not going to be in a large quantity of water will help maintain a lot of those nutrients in there.
Thank you. The next one I'm seeing is, do you recommend having a bigger lunch and a smaller dinner?
So it's your overall pattern as far as calories go. I would say it's what works best for you. So if you choose to have a larger lunch and a smaller dinner, a lot of times a lot of people find that that sits better with them, perhaps if they're going to bed soon after eating. Sometimes if you eat a larger dinner, it might not sit really well with you, and some people might experience some distress with that. But it's what works best for your lifestyle. Some days it might be that you have a big lunch and a small dinner. Sometimes that might switch, but it's about that overall pattern of eating. So whenever you get the food in.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, what is a good choice to have when you are craving chocolate?
Chocolate. And I'm serious. So when you're craving something, go ahead and take it, take some indulgence in that. We talk a lot at Wegmans, and maybe you've heard the term of mindful eating. So it's really taking a moment to say, all right, what is it that I want? I want chocolate. So you take that chocolate before you start devouring it, take a look at the chocolate, smell the chocolate, enjoy the chocolate, think about where the chocolate might have come from. Be really mindful of that and enjoy it. And you'll find that if you take a moment to stop and, get into your thoughts a little bit, not to be, all mushy, but if you take a moment and you think about the food that you're about to eat and you're mindful about it, you'll find that it's really going to satisfy you. And you may eat the whole Hershey bar, you may eat half the Hershey bar, but ultimately it doesn't matter. If you want the chocolate, have the chocolate. Just be mindful as you do it.
You heard it here, folks. Have the chocolate.
Have the chocolate.
The next question I'm seeing is, how do you view diets, especially the keto diet?
So I would say that every diet has its pros and its cons. The ketogenic diet specifically is actually a medically created diet for children with epilepsy. So, doctors create and prescribe this diet to children who have brain seizures and brain health issues because it does help them reduce those symptoms. But that doesn't mean that the ketogenic diet is appropriate for everybody. We don't know the effects of the ketogenic diet on adults without epilepsy long term. And we do know that having a diet heavy in saturated fat specifically isn't the best for our heart health. And I would also say that think about if that pattern of eating is really appropriate for your lifestyle. Does that style of eating, whether it's ketogenic or high carb, no fat, or whatever it may be, does it fit your overall lifestyle? Does it fit into what you really enjoy eating? And if it doesn't, and you're not going to follow it long term, I would suggest finding a different pattern of eating that's really going to fit your life long term and that you'll always be happy with.
Thank you for that answer. The next question is, vitamin D toxic? How much? Supposed to help immunity for COVID?
So we know that one nutrient on its own is not going to provide you the absolute key to nutrients. However, we do know that vitamin D is important in immune cell growth and development. So incorporating foods that have vitamin D in it can help our body. It's what our immune cells need to function and grow. But again, it's about that overall pattern of eating. So choosing a bunch of different food items. And I'm looking to see if I have the toxicity down here because I don't want to tell you what the toxicity level is and go wrong. So talk to your doctor, but the recommendation is supplements that add up to 600 IUs. And I believe, don't ask me to convert that off the top of my head, but having too much vitamin D, it can be toxic. Like I said, it's that fat soluble vitamin that our body stores. And if we have too much of it in our body, it can have some negative effects. So talk to your doctor about what is appropriate for you between diet and supplements.
Okay, thank you. Next thing is ideas for lunch. I have high blood pressure and try to stay away from cold cuts. Just turkey was suggested by my doctor, but it's like eating cardboard. Is deli turkey or chicken really bad for you?
So I would say that every brand and style of turkey and deli meat in general is going to be different as far as the amount of sodium that it includes. And when we're thinking about blood pressure, thinking about sodium in our diet is really important to think about. So trying to reduce it. However, a half a sandwich with some fruits and vegetables on a whole grain piece of bread, maybe with some avocado on it instead of mayonnaise. Don't knock it till you try it. It's very tasty. Is going to provide some overall balance. And what else are you having throughout the day that has salt in it? So if a turkey sandwich is really your thing and you love it, where can we make some switches in our day to reduce the sodium to be at the intake your doctor wants you to have? And doing that overall, but also think outside the sandwich. Soups homemade soups, especially this time of year. My crock pot's on the counter, and maybe not today because it's going to be 80, but I'll be making chili for the Bills game on Sunday. And if you can create some of those food items for yourself, freeze it, you can come up with a bunch of different options for lunches as well. But shoot me an email, whoever asks the tricky question, we can come up with some lunch ideas.
Thank you. Next question is, I take metformin, should I cut B12 supplement?
I would talk to your doctor beforehand. So we know that metformin, just some of the roles that it plays in our body does affect our body's ability to absorb B12. But before you make any changes to medications or supplements, absolutely talk to your doctor first.
Thank you. The final question that I'm seeing right now is, where can vegetarians get vitamin B12 from?
Supplements. So like I said, it is animal-based only. So if you're a vegetarian that may choose to consume eggs or dairy, you will get vitamin B12 from that. But you would want to then supplement, if you're not choosing any of those items, a vitamin B12 supplement. Anybody who is vegan and would want a vegan version of that supplement, that is available as well. So there's options out there, both, I say animal very loosely based because it's like a bacteria, I think, that they use to grow the B12. If that's not your thing, if you're going totally vegan, they do make vegan versions of it as well.
Okay, that's great to know. Thank you, Jenny. I'm seeing a couple comments. Thank you, very interesting. Thank you so much for your time. So with that, I think that we're done here. And Jenny, just so appreciative for your knowledge and everyone who spent their morning with us. And I'll try to post the recording this afternoon or Monday.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Katie, for having me.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.